well.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us with today's session with Matsi Modise. As you can see on your screen, all of our webinars are free, but if you'd like to make a contribution, you're welcome to make a contribution to Phoenix, which is an organization that supports students to pay for their studies. Now, I've known Matsi for quite some time, and it's such a pleasure to have her join me in this conversation. We've had very interesting conversations about entrepreneurship. I've had the privilege of sitting on a panel at SiMODiSA's breakfast session. So Matsi, for those individuals that don't know who you are, please tell the individuals that are joining us today a little bit about Matsi, and as well as a little bit more about SiMODiSA, where it started and why it was created.
Jayshree, thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor that we're able to connect during coronavirus. I think it's a time where we need to just huddle as a tribe, because we entrepreneurs, it's not easy right now. It's very difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know how long this tunnel is. So opportunities like these always excite me, because it's a time to remember why you're doing this and that you are part of a community. So a little bit about myself, Matsi Modise. I'm an entrepreneur. So I have a company called Furaha Afrika Holdings, and we have operations in outsourced HR, healthcare, and also the digital space. I'm an entrepreneurship activist. So for the past 10 years, I have been in the entrepreneurship space, building the entrepreneurship space, getting involved, getting entrepreneurs, to be heard, advocating for our ability to grow, our ability to have a seat at the table, our ability to have procurement opportunities. So I've been quite involved, and one of the organizations that I'm still very much involved in is SiMODiSA. I'm the Vice-Chairperson of SiMODiSA, which is an industry association for high growth, high impact entrepreneurs. So those entrepreneurs that are really going to contribute towards our economy and drive the growth of our economy. I'm also a serial board member, so I sit on various boards. And, for me, sitting on boards, I'm 35 years old. Probably my first board I sat when I was 25. So for the past 10 years, I've been involved in other organizations overseeing the governance. And it's a side hustle, because when you're trying to build a business, that's your main hustle. So your job is not your main hustle. Your company, your business is your main hustle. But sitting on boards is a side hustle, because it's one way of getting to learn how to build businesses, but then also to get that extra income. So I sit on a couple of public, listed, unlisted, local, international companies. And one of them is Nagel, which is one of the largest logistics company. I'm the chairperson of that. Agrie-Vie private equity fund, Safka, MMI. It's quite a comprehensive list. But I do enjoy the having to learn how to build businesses, because a lot of the businesses that I sit on their boards, somebody had an idea, somebody decided to grow it, and I'm learning how to actually govern building a business. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, amongst many, many other hats that I wear.
Well, thank you so much. And I know some of the other organizations you're really closely involved with, like the Innovation Hub, right? And the amazing work that gets done through that space. For me, Matsi, so I've been a director on a couple of boards in the past as well. You also end up learning from these organizations. While you're contributing to their growth, you're learning, and you also learn how to avoid certain pitfalls, from a business perspective. And sometimes you get so excited that you're actually an entrepreneur, because the politics that these large corporates sometimes have to go through, is something that all of us as entrepreneurs want to avoid as much as possible. So Matsi, you and I go way back, as I said earlier, and in and out of the entrepreneurship space, and the entrepreneurship ecosystem is just such a beautiful, big space, but also sometimes challenging to navigate. And before we get into chatting about the ecosystem, can you share with me what excites you about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so my journey has been quite interesting in the sense that I've only been employed once, and that was in an internship at a bank. And that was the last time I was employed by anybody. That was the last time somebody had to figure out how I'm going to eat at the end of the month. So for the past 10 years, I've had to figure all of that out. I've had to figure out how I'm going to pay salaries to my employees. So but I must say, what excites me about this path and this journey is it's an inner feeling. You know, it's guided by your gut. So every decision that you make, every direction that you take, it is something that you have to tap into the inner sense. There's no theory, because there's a lot of madness around some of the things that we do, some of the things that we say. And you just have to tap into the innerness of entrepreneurship. And also it's it's not the fear of uncertainty, it's the fun of uncertainty. During coronavirus, there's been a lot of uncertainty around where we are, what's going to happen, are you still going to be in business or not? But as an entrepreneur, you know that, well, this is my life. For the past 10 years, I haven't known what happens beyond 3 months. You know, all you know is that within the first 3 months, 6 months, probably at most, there is going to be this kind of, especially if you're starting up. I mean, if you're established business, sure. But the early days of growing and building your business, there's not much certainty. So there is that fun of uncertainty, and then seizing opportunities, you know, the chase is always exciting, you know, chasing that deal, engaging those people, not being defeated when somebody says no, but get very excited when somebody says no. You actually want to convince them why they should invest in you, why should they believe in you. And then also closing deals. I think that's the one part of entrepreneurship that excites me. One of my mottos is ABC of life, always be closing. So closing deals, it's one of my most exciting part of this journey. It's like every time, even if it's something as small as 1,000 rands, I've managed to take money from somebody that doesn't know me, but has entrusted me, and I now need to deliver. So that closing of that deal is quite exciting for me.
It does something to you, doesn't it? This feeling in the pit of your tummy, it just excites you. So I can just tell by having this conversation with you how passionate you are about the space of entrepreneurship.
Totally.
I know it because I see it in the faces of entrepreneurs all the time. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so it's something absolutely invigorating about closing that deal. I can't agree with you more. So I see we have some comments that are coming through on the Q&A. I just want to keep an eye on it so that we can address them as it comes through.
Sure.
So one of the first ones is, there's no such thing as a silly question, by the way, guys. So feel free to use the Q&A section as well as the chat to speak to Matsi and I. So this might be a silly question, but both you, Jayshree, and Matsi mentioned that you sit on various boards, and this has been a great way of learning in terms of how to run a business. How does someone put their hand up to sit on a board? I'll hand over to Matsi, but before I do that, just yesterday, in fact, I was invited to present to the Institute of Directors members on a webinar on the challenges and opportunities facing entrepreneurs. So I know the Institute of Directors is one of the formal bodies for directors in the country, and they also advertise board positions on the Institute of Directors website. But Matsi, maybe you want to respond to that question. How does someone put their hand up and get involved in that space?
Sure, you're right. I think the formal way of doing it is signing up on the Institute of Directors South Africa. It's a formal organization that governs directorship. So you can put yourself there, be part of the network. There's a lot of learnings and classes. So since COVID hit us, I've actually now had time to spend time in learning governance, you know, the King for a report of good governance, how to be a director, how to be an efficient director. So the Institute of Directors is the formal way of doing it. And also it's one way of getting a pipeline of opportunities. So a lot of people will ask themselves, when should I actually put my hand up to be a director? Well, if you've had experience in an environment, in an area, let's say you're an accountant and you've been doing accounting for the past 5 years plus, you have a sense of how a company should be running its books, how it should be running its finances. So you have a lot of value to add. So there's no harm once you've acquired some form of experience in putting yourself out there and saying, I can help your organization look into and govern and oversee the accounting component of your business. So that's a one way of doing it officially. And then in my instance, it's truly been a network thing. So leveraging my networks, coming across as a capable person, the fact that I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. So some of the boards that I sit on would want me to help them tap into how do they better support entrepreneurs? How do they better get entrepreneurs in their supply chain and train them? There's that. And then over the years, it's because I've sat on various boards, I have that experience. So people would be very comfortable to have me as part of their board because I have a sense of oversight of businesses and governance of businesses. But the Institute of Directors, I would definitely sign up. It is an investment of about 3,000, 4,000 rands per annum. It's a worthy investment. And then there's a lot of courses that now during COVID, you're doing them online, and it really does sharpen your sword in terms of learning how to be an efficient director.
Okay, thank you so much. So Raksha is on the line. Raksha, thank you so much for joining us. You must remember Raksha Mabir as well, Matsi.
Of course.
So thanks for a great comment, Raksha. You're welcome to share it with all attendees as well. And Raksha saying the Directors Association is a new player in the director development and placement space as well. And they have a specific focus on placing more Black women on boards. Great. So, this is really important, diversity and representativity on boards. I've chaired a couple of boards, I've sat on boards, and we always have an issue with diversity as well as representativity in terms of the gender representativity that needs to happen on boards. So moving away from boards for a little bit, Matsi, I'd really like us to have a conversation about this thing we call the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And I have got you and I both have some very strong feelings about this. But what do you think are some of the challenges that entrepreneurs face in accessing this entrepreneurship ecosystem? And what is the entrepreneurship ecosystem in your mind?
Okay, I think I'll start with what is it and then what are the challenges. So what it is that we as entrepreneurs, we exist within a system. So that's what we call the entrepreneurship ecosystem, whether it is the funders, whether it's a marketplace, whether it's the networking platforms, incubators, accelerators, academic institutions, foundations that support entrepreneurs. So all players that contribute towards your growth as an entrepreneur, whether it's a marketplace, whether it's, the funders, whether it's co-working spaces, those are all particles of this ecosystem, right? So it does exist. And in South Africa, we have quite a robust ecosystem. There are a lot of players out there that are out there saying we support entrepreneurs, whether we fund them, whether we incubate them, whether we accelerate them. So they do exist. The question is, are they good at what they're doing in terms of helping us and supporting us as entrepreneurs? It's a very subjective topic. Everybody would have a different response to it. Generally, if the last time we mapped the ecosystem, basically mapping the ecosystem is within this framework of entrepreneurship, who are the players that are helping entrepreneurs? Who are the organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs? And the last time we mapped the players, the various players, it was about 340, whether it is funding institutions, whether it is capacity building institutions, whether it's incubators, whether it's accelerators. We mapped it to 340, and those are basically organizations that we did a desktop research around. Who's out there, who's sticking their neck out saying we're helping you entrepreneurs. So we are actually in the process of mapping and updating the ecosystem map. It could be more or less 340 by the time we're done with our research, but we encourage all players that are out there supporting entrepreneurs to say, here I am, this is what I do, this is my organization, and anybody that has access to this ecosystem map would be able to find them in the case that they need those services. So that's the one part of an ecosystem, what it is, what it looks like, how big it is in South Africa. I think of most of the African countries, we're quite advanced. If you had to look at our work, remote working, co-working spaces. They're world class. You could go anywhere in the world and you could feel like I can be in Germany, I can be in New York right now. We have world class institutions. Efficiency is questionable, I must say, and you alluded to it, Jayshree, that we've spoken about this a lot of times, that we seem to have created an ecosystem that helps us being those people that are trying to help entrepreneurs. We're not necessarily helping you. So if there was 100 rands that was put into helping small businesses, I would say 80 rands of that goes towards paying salaries of those people that are trying to help you. And then all you have now is 20 rands to say, we only have 20 rands to give you as an entrepreneur. So we have not necessarily served you. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in our ability to prioritize the entrepreneur, in our ability to say no more accelerators that are really not adding value, no more accelerators and incubators that are just it's a public, it's a PR exercise for you. We can do with more accelerators, incubators, co-working spaces in remote areas of our country, like in townships environments, in rural areas, because that's where the greatest need is. But if you come to Johannesburg, if you go to Cape Town, if you go to Durban, there's a lot of co-working spaces. But a lot of people have to migrate from the township, Alexandra, Soweto, go into Sandton to now find opportunities, to now find support. Why is that? So we have to some degree not necessarily served you as entrepreneurs and somewhat failed as an ecosystem. So we do exist, but we can do a lot better and we can do a lot more with what we have. And people must stop using it as a PR exercise, because we're done with that. There's still high levels of unemployment in our country. There is clearly a need, and we do need to support our small businesses with every cent that we have in that 100 rands.
So thank you so much for that. I mean, and I'm a huge supporter of, if we are going to do this, we need to make sure we add value to the entrepreneur, but we need to hold those individuals and organizations accountable. And it's, how many companies do you know of that will actually push back when a large corporate says, just give me an attendance register, So so the focus that we have is on a 3-pillar framework: access to markets, access to development, and access to funding. And if there isn't money at the end of a program, or if there isn't access to markets, plug me into your supply chain. So if a corporate is that serious about developing an entrepreneur, they should actually be opening up their procurement opportunities to those entrepreneurs that they are paying for the development of. And we don't see enough of that. So I couldn't agree with you more. But I also want to touch on entrepreneurs. And I know I sat on a panel just before all of the lockdown crisis started in Cape Town at the Fast Companies Innovation event. And I was sitting on this panel with some other ladies that are part of Inspiring 50 Women in STEM. And a question came about, well, why aren't entrepreneurs able to access the ecosystem? And I was asked this question off guard. And off guard, my response was, sometimes entrepreneurs are lazy. And I know you and I have chatted about this. So when I said this, it was long before you and I chatted. And you and I had a giggle about this when we chatted, because I really do believe that if you just take the time to search online for opportunities, you will find them. And it's not difficult to do. I mean, Google has made things so easy. So sometimes an entrepreneur will send me a WhatsApp and say, where can I go to receive this? And I'll just go into Google, and with just a few lines of words, I would get a response. So why can't they do that too? So Matsi, what are your views on this? Why aren't entrepreneurs doing what they need to?
Yeah, no, I can echo what you said, Jayshree, that for me, if somebody comes and asks a question that I feel like it's a legitimate question, it's fine. Because initially it might be difficult to navigate through the system, because we've been doing this for 10 years. So this is second nature to us. If some question pops up, it's like, well, surely you can do this, you can do that. So there's a level of guidance, but then there's also a level of saying, give them enough information, but let them do the hard work. Just guide them. And yes, there are a lot of people that are lazy. As an entrepreneur, I can just make reference to the current opportunity that I have, which is a partnership with Workforce Holdings. It's a listed business. I knew nothing about human resources. I didn't study human resources, but I'm making money selling training. I'm making money selling recruitment. I'm making money now in COVID times. We've had to pivot. We are selling healthcare solutions around risk assessments for businesses as they prepare to go back to work, medical screening. I know nothing about that, but I've gone out of my way to understand the opportunity, because legislation says we need to do X, Y, and Z in order to prepare businesses. We are in the HR space, but I went out of my way to really research, to read into the finer print of what the government requires, and to also suss out the opportunity. And now I've had to tell myself that I must be patient, because right now I just need to plant the seeds. By the time people wake up to the fact that government is serious, you have to do medical screening of your employees, you have to have risk assessments, you have to have COVID-19 management plans. When they wake up to that, guess what? We would have been promoting, advertising. People will know that this is an organization to go to. But I was curious to know what occupational health is in the work environment. I didn't study it, so I went out of my way to research it and learn about it and explore the opportunity. So yes, to a greater part, there is a level of laziness. To a greater part, there's a level that we need to do to guide, but not give answers. And the ecosystem is there. Of a lot of ecosystems that exist globally, we are very comprehensive. We've put a lot of money into helping small businesses. We need to start seeing if this money is being spent wisely. It's really helping small businesses, but that's also for the ecosystem to decide that, are we going to now start assessing ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and holding ourselves accountable, so that every cent and penny that's put towards helping a small business does go. And also ask the questions, because a lot of times my biggest challenge is access to markets. As networked as I am, I know the Jayshrees of this world, I know all these people of this world, they won't trust me because I'm a small business, right? Turning over just over 10 million rands is still regarded as a small business. And also, big supply chains, big value chains have established businesses that they've been working with for the past 10 to 15 years. Now you are saying, hi, I'm a small business. Everybody wants to support me. However, I'm here and you're giving me a tough time in putting me into your supply chain. I mean, Jayshree, you would know, you used to work at Standard Bank. You are familiar with the procurement process of onboarding small businesses, especially at Standard Bank. It's very difficult. You're shaking. I mean, yeah, it's not a very easy task. So as a small business, there's a lot to be done, but you kind of have to keep pushing, fighting back, asking those uncomfortable questions, but stop saying in public that you're here to help us as small businesses. But now when it's time to procure from me, you're going to ask, but who is Matsi? Why is it that there's 10,000 companies that are now opening and offering this? It's like, why are you asking those questions? Why are you putting yourself out there and saying you're here to help small businesses? Stop lying.
Thank you, Matsi. So, Matsi, on that point, so we service quite a few banking clients. 3 of the banks are our clients. We service a multinational, in IBM. We service so local, international, and then some other smaller companies, and like a Motseng Investment, as well as a Kakiso Trust. So those are our clients. But what was so interesting for me is that for one of the banks, and I won't say which bank because we service 3 banks as our clients, but they required 37 different pieces of paper in order for us to become a supplier. So when we added up all of the different compliance requirements, everything from share certificates to environmentally, best practices, to all of the documents, when I added up every single document in that folder, there were 37 pieces of documents that they needed from us during this onboarding process for us to become a supplier. And we teach entrepreneurs how to become supplier ready. And even for us, it was a daunting task. It took me 2 days to pull all of this information together. even more than what a multinational billion-dollar company asked us for. This local bank needed this type of information. So I do agree with you that as big organizations, we need to be more flexible when it comes to working with smaller businesses. But I also think it's a responsibility, again, if we go back to programs, if a company is sponsoring a program, they should not make it difficult to bring those entrepreneurs into their supply chain. It's a no-brainer. It's almost should be compulsory that if you sponsor a program, you will first look at entrepreneurs. And also, for programs that are being sponsored, almost put a badge of completion on those entrepreneurs and position them. And I'll give you an example, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. One of the banks approached us and said, you are working with property entrepreneurs. We have a whole lot of requirements for COVID-19. Can you send us a list of your property entrepreneurs? And because we have now built a reputation that we are working and developing property entrepreneurs, it's market-ready entrepreneurs. I think we need to do a lot more as development organizations and ecosystem players to start positioning our entrepreneurs for access to market opportunities. So what are your thoughts in that, Matsi, and what have you seen some of the best practices?
Yeah, you're spot on in terms of, I don't understand why big companies spend a lot of money. I mean, I sit on a board of an insurance company. It's actually a trust so it's like we oversee the running of their enterprise development strategies and programs, and a lot of money has been put into this, like millions, like 50 millions. And at the end of the day, the question is, so we are doing all of this for what? Are we doing this to prepare them to be competitive service providers in your value chain? And good thing is I ask the uncomfortable questions because I don't want to be someone that's wasting my time and also not doing justice to my fellow entrepreneurs, because I've gone through that journey. I continue to go through that journey, and I'm tired of hearing, no, they're not ready. It's like, then why invest so much money? Clearly you have not achieved your objective if they're not ready. You've done something wrong. You haven't done something right. So it's a mind shift as well. And I realize that even this very small trust within a big insurance company has to do a lot of selling of what they are trying to do. So it's not for a lack of them not trying, but I do feel that they need to push hard enough, because right now the paradigm has to shift. Right now, as small businesses who are supposedly the ones that are going to drive the economy, that are going to grow the economy, that are going to create jobs, no one really cares for us. It's all, people, it's just lip service. And you need to start listening to what people are saying, looking at what they're doing, and questioning what are your end results? What are your objectives? What are you trying? Because if we're all doing this for a PR exercise, for things to sound pretty and look pretty, it looks good on the brochure, then you should say, I'm not interested. You really should, because initially when you're starting, it's fun, it's exciting. Hey, I'm part of this accelerator program. It sounds great. It sounds like you're on to the next big thing. But what do you have to show for at the end? You need to ask yourself that question. Yes, entrepreneurs sometimes can be quite entitled around not managing their expectations, because sometimes you go into this accelerator and incubator thinking they're going to solve all your problems. No, you are going to solve all your problems. That is an enabler, but you need to question, is this the right enabler? Are they really going to provide what I really need? Is this a generic incubator program or accelerator program, or is this a program that has been known to actually have results? But as the ecosystem, Jayshree, we need to start looking and assessing and grading and saying this is an A-grade incubator accelerator, so that if anybody's going to get involved, it's like, I know this is a D-grade accelerator. Nobody will want to touch me, or nobody will have certainty that I've gotten the best out of the best and I'm going to be able to get procurement opportunities. So we need to start being honest with ourselves, start asking the hard questions to ourselves and those who are supposed to enable us. But it all begins and ends with you at the end of the day, because you need to make those decisions as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to latch on a couple of things you touched on, Matsi. For me,
Mm.
accelerator hopping is a real thing. I see entrepreneurs from one program to the other. And I've even
Yeah.
threatened some of my entrepreneurs to say, I do not want to see you on another program that we run, because if I see you on a
Yeah.
program, it means I failed you. It's like when
Yes.
I worked at the Development Bank of Southern Africa. The job of a development bank is to go out of business because you cannot live in
Mm.
a permanent development state. And if we are
Mm-hmm.
continuously in a development state, it means we have not developed. The same with an
Mm.
entrepreneurship program. If you aren't offering value and delivering the services required, then your measure of success is that entrepreneur not hopping onto another program to search for things
Correct.
like access to markets and access to development. So I'd
Mm.
love to see that type of grading system come into play. And especially if we can get entrepreneurs to evaluate the programs that they
Totally.
actually attend, because that should
Mm.
be the best measure of success, is whether your entrepreneurs feel that they're receiving value from your programs. So Matsi,
Totally.
we're coming to the end of the session, and I just want to see if there are any other questions, or the Q&A line. We have answered the questions. On the chat line, there doesn't seem to be any more questions. I'd love for you to just give some final thoughts and words of encouragement to entrepreneurs during these difficult times, Matsi. What are they?
Yeah, it's tough times, ladies and gentlemen. And I feel like if you are gonna make it, there's a choice. Either you make it or you don't make it. And if you do make it, because you've been able to analyze your situation, you've been able to pivot your offering, you've made it relevant, you haven't given up. If you can make it through this, I think you'll make it through anything else in the world, because this is the toughest period in all of our lives. So hopefully not be anything like this in the coming years. But if you've been able to make that decision, am I going to make it or am I not going to make it? If you can survive this, I feel that you can survive anything. And also, the choices that you've made around being an entrepreneur are not glamorous as everybody makes them seem to be. Entrepreneurship, it's not glamorous. It's you starve sometimes. You don't have money to go out for a simple tea with your friends. Sometimes they don't understand you. You lose a lot of people along the way. But it's your dream, and you have to pay the price. You have to be willing to let go of a lot of things. Stay true to the cause. You've made this decision. Always be clear what your why is, because every time you reach a stumbling block, you always remember, why the hell am I doing this? I mean, when coronavirus hit, the first thing I said, I wish I was somebody's employee, because somebody's going to worry about how I'm going to survive and how I'm going to get paid. And then, yeah, last but not least, you have come this far. You've come this far. Own your journey, own your successes, own your failures, and you deserve to win.
Wow, thank you so much, Matsi. I mean, that was just so wonderful having you online with us, and I really appreciate you sharing some of your thoughts. For those of you that are still online, as mentioned earlier, we don't charge for any of our sessions, but if you'd like to donate to a really great cause, which is Phoenix, it's a crowdfunding platform that helps kids access education by paying off their fees. So please feel free to contribute to Phoenix. But Matsi, I've had such a wonderful time engaging with you and learning. I always learn so much from you when we chat, and I look forward to working with you a lot closer. Please tell the individuals how they can get access to SiMODiSA, and I'll include it in my
Yeah.
email that I send through as well.
Wonderful. So SiMODiSA is an industry association, and it's basically a community. It's a home for you as entrepreneurs. We want to be able to promote you as an entrepreneur to our broader audience. We also want you to be part of this tribe. We're a different kind of tribe. So to be part of it, just go to SiMODiSA. We everywhere. We've got our website, simodisa.org. We've got Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere. We are that community. We are that community of entrepreneurs, and we want to travel this journey with you. But we also want to be able to amplify what you do and understand what you do and how we can assist you. So be part of the tribe.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Matsi. I really appreciate your time and your passion for entrepreneurship, and well done on all the amazing work that you do to promote the ecosystem in South Africa and contributing positively to the boards that you sit on. So thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us. Please do feel free to go onto our YouTube channel to view this episode and any past episodes on Let's Chat as well. And we look forward to having you next time. From next week, every second week, we'll be featuring one entrepreneur on Let's Chat. And that will hopefully give them some exposure from an access to markets perspective as well. So if any of you are interested on being featured, do let us know, and you can get a hold of us on info@yidi.co.za. Bye, everyone, and thank you, Matsi.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone. All the best.
Bye.